Hi everyone, I'm April and you're watching the Tangled Cat Speaks. Today I'm going to show you a few things that I did instead of knitting. I did get a little bit of knitting done, but not a whole lot. I did tell you last time that I had gotten a correction for the Thrive shawl that I was working on. I've gotten so far as to pull out what I had worked on and just started now going through where the corrections were made by the designer. So I haven't really gotten any further than where I was before. So I'm not even going to show you that. I did start my 2-color socks by Joji Locatelli, and let's see, they're coming out so good. These were the 2 colors that I'm using. Actually, that's better. That's a good color representation. This is the Cognac, the 3 Irish Girls Adorn base. And this is Eyes Bright, Chins Up, Smiles On the Nerd Girl Yarns Bounce and Stomp base. Yay! So this is what I've got so far, and I'm really loving the 2 colors together. Very, very happy about that. I'm about to start the lace part in this color, so very exciting. I love them so much. I'm using this is one of those DPN holders, but I'm using some really old DPNs because the size needles that I wanted to use my 9-inch circulars, but those are 2.5 and I needed a 2.25. And the 2.25 that I had, I believe I showed you, I have a set of Knit Picks DPNs. Well, my 2.25 in that set are being used on another pair of socks, so I had to pull out some old vintage needles. They're long. They're about 7 or 8 inches long. Stab my eye with got to be very careful with these ones. But I must have inherited these at some point, and they weren't even a full set. It looks like I've got 3 needles that are green and 2 needles that are pink. So whoever had them before me must have lost some at some point, but they still work and I don't mind that they don't match. So that's what I'm working on as far as my socks. Those are going to be for the Brown Bagging It Sock Club as well as for the grocery girls. Oh, and also for the Joji Locatelli fall knit along. So I got those going, and the other thing that I had to start even though I wanted to wait until my Thrive shawl was done, but I had to get started on. So a while back I told you all I was going to do that 70s tee. Well, I had gotten all the yarn ready, it was all wound up and I was ready to go, and then I was watching I recently found, maybe about a month ago, I found the Snappy Stitches podcast, and I'm up to an episode now where she talks about, I'm still in the very, very early episodes. I think this is still like 5 years ago. But anyways, I guess at one point she had knitted herself a raglan cardigan, or no, not a cardigan, a raglan pullover, and she didn't like how it fit because there wasn't any shaping in the front for the bust area. And so that got me thinking, it got me scared to do the pullover, which it basically is what that 70s tee is. It's a pullover. And I started thinking, well, am I going to need darts, like bust darts? And am I going to need to add some length in the front? Because I am basically, you know, how everybody has their different body types. And, you know, there's a pear shape and whatnot. I'm an apple. I am just round on top. I've got a big bust and a big waistline. And I started thinking, is a pullover with no shaping in the body area going to work for me? And I've never done darts. I don't know anything about them. So I started to get nervous, and I was going to start looking up how to do that. So I'm still watching this podcast by Snappy Stitches, and a few episodes later she's talking about a cardigan that she's making, and she decided to add bust darts to that. and it went horribly wrong. She didn't like it, and I was like, I'm chickening out. This is a sign. 2 episodes within the same week, and it's a sign. I probably should not be making a pullover for myself without learning more about shaping. So I decided not to do that. But with the yarn that I had chosen, and actually I decided to switch up the yarns as well for the next thing, but I'm still going to do kind of a fade. So I think I showed you last time this was going to be part of that tee. This was going to be for the collar and the sleeves. I'm still going to use this for the collar of this cardigan that I'm going to do. This was Knit Picks Stroll Tonal in the Raven colorway. God, it is so pretty. Purples and fuchsias. Oh, beautiful. And I had also showed you the Pandia's Jewels Snug. I was going to use Tiny Dancer, and it's very pale pink. And I had picked some other colors to go with those, but I decided I didn't want to do that progression. I had a whole bunch of other Pandia Snug yarns that I thought would look better. So the ones that I had already wound for that 70s tee, I've put away and decided to use for something else. But I'm going to wind these ones up because I think this is a better, let me see how I'm going to do it, a better progression. So I'm going to use this one, and then I'll go into this next one, which is called Rock Garden. You see it's got some of that baby pink in it. And then after that, I will go into this one, which is very similar but doesn't have as much blue and has a little more green. So that one is called Obstinate Headstrong Girl. And then after that, I'm going to throw this one in. And this one is called Gypsy. It's got some more of the pinks, and there's some more green. There's a little blip of bright orange. I'm okay with that. But you see it's got the dark purple in it, which is going to go well with the Raven. Super excited. So I don't think that I'm going to use all of any of these skeins because even for my size, it's a lot of yardage that I've got here, but it's nice to have extra just in case I want to make the sleeves longer or if I want to make the body a little bit longer. So I'm super excited. The pattern that I chose is called Softness, and I don't remember the name of the designer, but I will put it up here. And I have started it already, and I've only got a little bit done. I just did all of the setup rows for the raglan neckline, and it's a raglan sleeves on a cardigan. It's not a pullover. So I got it started in the Tiny Dancer pink, and I'm loving it already. Loving it already. This simple, easy lace. And I actually did a gauge swatch for this. Do you believe it? Me. I did a gauge swatch. So that's, I started that. I'm very, very, very excited, but I really, really, really want to get further along on my Thrive shawl before I get too far into this, because I don't want to put that one down and forget all about it. I love it already. I just need to sit down and quit getting distracted. The thing that really distracted me this week was yarn dyeing. I don't know, I got my Wilton's gel food colorings in the mail, and I was just so excited. I'm like, I gotta dye everything. What can I dye next? So I should have taken some before pictures of some of these, but I didn't. This particular yarn I dyed using burgundy, the burgundy color from the Wilton's kit, or Wilton's package or whatever. Now I had this already. This yarn was an inherited yarn. I don't know what it is. I assumed it was some sort of wool, but I wasn't sure. Turns out it is, because it took this dye really well. But it was an orangey, like a pumpkin-y orangey color, and I decided I wanted to try something just a little bit different. So I used the burgundy to over dye it. And it was already in a cake form, and I left it in the cake form, so the inside stayed mostly orange and the outside is what picked up the burgundy color. But what's interesting is this orange here is some of the part that did not take any dye. This was in the center of the cake. So this is a very pumpkin-y orange. Now you see this is what it looks like. And it kind of ended up being like a gradient, so this yarn is going to end up so pretty with the burgundy added. It's going to end up like a slow gradient. And I'm thinking a cowl. But what I thought was really, really interesting is when the burgundy took, it turns, because it's like a tweedy yarn. So like you see in the orange that there's kind of like some grayish tweedy bits. But in the burgundy, it turns, I don't know if it can pick up on the light, it turns some of those tweedy bits like a purpley color. It's very interesting. But I love how it turned out. It's much more interesting than the solid orange was. Very, very happy with that. So this will be a cowl. The other thing that I did was, I think I told you guys about the little tiny itty bitty bit of the Tribbles yarn from when I did those 3 mini pairs of little tiny socks. And I had a tiny bit of the Tribbles left over. Well, I decided to go ahead and grab that and make it into a tiny little mini skein and dip it in the rest of the burgundy that I just used for the other yarn, and this is what ended up. And it's very similar. You can see where I had it tied a little too tight, so some of that Tribbles orange is coming through. But it's very similar to what I just did. Those were very similar oranges. So I'm loving it. This would make a beautiful heels for a pair of socks, I think. And then I just got yarn dyeing fever at that moment. So I grabbed a couple of other leftover yarns that I had laying around. This particular one was another one that I had inherited and I didn't know what it was. It felt like wool, but it definitely was not. I also threw this in the burgundy. It was like a creamy oatmeal tweedy looking yarn, and it didn't take up hardly any color. So I'm thinking that this may have been an acrylic blend with just a tiny bit of wool, because it isn't the same color throughout anymore, the oatmeal color. There are tiny bits, and I don't know how much is picking up in the light, but there are tiny bits of burgundy where it picked up, so it's very faint pink in some spots. So I'm thinking this had to have been some sort of wool blend, but now I know what it is. I had no clue. But definitely it must not have been 100% animal fiber, because it did not take to the intensity that this one did. So I still have a little tiny pot of vinegar water left in my pot. And I had some green yarn. It's like a greeny, it's like a green, bluish green. It's more on the green side with a tiny little bit of blue. It was a Knit Pick Stroll yarn. I believe it was called Blue Topaz. I can't remember. But basically that yarn was this color here. But what I did was, it was just in a ball, about 20 grams, just in a ball. And I went ahead and I stuck it on my Swift, and I made it into a very long skein, and I dipped half of it in the black Wilton's gel, and the other half in the royal blue. So this part is the royal blue, and these here, this is where the black touched it. This is kind of in between, and then you've got the royal blue here, and I don't know how this spot ended up kind of purpley, but I'm glad that it did, because it's kind of cool. But it went from like a kind of a bland single colored yarn to a really pretty variegated yarn. And I kind of wish I had more of this and that I had done an entire skein of it, because God, I love it. This is totally something I would use to make a full-on shawl. But alas, I only have enough to accentuate something else. But I love it. It's turned out so pretty. Like, just look at it all together. And the way I had dipped it was I had the yarn kind of like this, and then I folded it, and then I folded it again. So this part went into the black, and then this part went into the blue. And then I ended up with something super cool. And I think I'm going to use this technique again sometime because I'm digging it. And then this other one, I'm going to have to show you a progression of photos. It started off with some yarn that I bought ages and ages and ages ago, back in 2011. It was right around the first time I found Knit Picks. And I started ordering like mad because it was cool yarn and it wasn't that expensive. And I bought a bunch. And I don't know what possessed me, because I know that yellow is not my thing. And I ended up buying 6 50-gram balls of DK weight yarn. They called it honey. The colorway was called honey, and I don't know if they still make that color. I know that the particular DK yarn that I bought is now discontinued, but it was called honey, and I don't know if it just looked more like an amber color on screen, but when I got it, it was like a cornmeal yellow, and I was not pleased. Not one tiny bit. So I ended up stashing that yarn deep stash way in the back of the closet for a good 4 years. And about 3 years ago, I went ahead and I knitted it up into a shawl. It was a bulky weight pattern. And what I did was I held 3 strands of the DK weight together to make a super bulky, I think. And since I had 6 skeins, that's how I put it in. It was not superwash. So when I got to the end of each skein, I spit spliced the next one on. So now that I undid the whole thing, it's 3 big 100-gram skeins. So anyway, I had it in this big yellow shawl, and that sat for 3 years. I've never worn it because it's, even though the pattern is beautiful, it's the common bean shawl. I really love the pattern, and I will definitely have to knit that again some other time with some other yarn that I really like. But I didn't like it. The pattern did not make me love the yellow at all. So that sat for 3 years. And then when I was doing all of these other dyeing things, I kind of made a little bit of a mess. So I remembered that Rebecca from the Chem Knits tutorials here on YouTube did several videos where she got some dry yarn and she basically poured some dye into a bin, like a basin, plastic basin, and got the dry unwound hank of yarn and just started mopping up what she poured in the basin with the yarn as if it was like a dishcloth or something, and just, you know, got these random variegated splotches all over the skein. So I thought, what can I do? What can I use? What can I dye with it using this method so I can pick up some of the little spills that I had made with the other dyeing. So I went and I remembered that I had this yellow shawl that I was planning on frogging anyway. And I got it and I just started using that as a rag to wipe up any spills. And then I put it in a basin and I started pouring the rest of the dye that I had left over all over it and just kind of squishing it through and wiping up the bottom of the basin with it, and just made this random splotchiness all over the shawl. And there'll be another photo there of how that looked. So I let that dry overnight, and the next day I spent hours upon hours upon hours, literally at least 5 hours of frogging the shawl and at the same time separating the 3 strands that I had knitted it. So I ended up with 3 cakes of DK weight, and because it was dyed already in a knitted pattern, it pulled out very speckly. So it turned out kind of cool. I'm not sure that I 100% love the result that I got using all of these different colors, but I do like it a lot more than I liked the plain yellow. So these are the 3 balls that I ended up with. Very, very green, and I'll have to see how it knits up to see if I actually like it, because in this form I'm not completely sold, and part of me wants to go ahead and wind this back into Hanks and dip it into like some teal or something to make it more on the blue side. But I'm gonna try it first. I'm gonna try knitting something with it. Maybe probably something simple, maybe a garter stitch, I'm not sure. But I'm gonna try it and just see, and if I don't love how it's knitting up, then I will go ahead and over dye it one more time with another color, and I'm thinking teal. But it was an experiment. It was fun. I knew that if I didn't end up loving it, that's fine, because I didn't love the original yarn to begin with. So it wasn't like I was experimenting on something that I was gonna regret if I messed it up. So I had some fun with that. But it was messy, and I didn't have gloves. Shame on me for not wearing gloves. Please do that when you're dyeing. Because now I'm walking around looking like I have gangrene in my fingernails. I promise my nails are clean. They're just stained. It looks horrible. So there you go. There's that. That's fun and exciting. That's really, I don't have a whole lot more to talk about. Well, kind of, I guess. I did mention I was gonna start reading The Hollow by Agatha Christie for our Delicious Death group on Ravelry, and I have started that. And I was gonna watch a version of it in, there's a TV version, a TV adaptation of the book with David Suchet as Hercule Poirot. Everybody knows I love him in that character. So I was really excited to see that YouTube had it, because I couldn't find that episode anywhere. And so I started watching it here on YouTube, but whoever uploaded it, it was just a really poor, blurry quality, and I just couldn't watch it for more than 5 minutes. I had to turn it off. So I was kind of bummed about that. But that's okay. Hopefully I'll find the episode some other time. I know that's one that I've never seen. So there's that. Let's see. I just started watching the 2nd season of the Shannara Chronicles. I'm waiting for the next disc to come in. And I'm also waiting for season 3 of Rain to come in at the library. So those are the things that I'm watching on TV. And my daughter keeps telling me that I need to start watching, I think it's called Castle Rock. She says it's really, really good, and that it's something that I would enjoy. So I might have to check that out too. Let me know if you've started watching Castle Rock at all. But I'm going to go take my mom now to a little town here near where I live, and it's called Corrales. There's a couple there who have a small orchard, but they don't ever do anything with the apples. They don't sell them or anything like that. So every year when everything starts ripening, they open up their orchard to the public and allow people to come and pick apples for free, so long as they don't start climbing up on the trees. So I think I'm going to take my mom, and we're going to go have a little apple picking adventure. So I'm going to go ahead and get going with that. I can hear my son in the living room turning on the football. So I will get with you guys another time. Thank you for spending your time with me today, and I hope that the rest of your week is fabulous. Bye. Here we are in a small little orchard in the city of Corrales, New Mexico. Me and my mama. Say hi, everybody.
Hi there, everybody.
We're gonna pick some apples. Let's turn this around. See if you guys can get a view of this. I am not good at working my phone like this. Hold on. All right, there we go. All the little trees. Ooh, that one has all kinds way up there, but we can't climb. I will fall down and hurt myself, Mama. Let's see. Oh, some people have, look, pickers. Look, she's got a cute little apple picker. I need one. What do you got there, Mama? It's in your hand.
Oh, apples.
Let me see.
Green apples.
Yum.
These ones are pretty big that we got.
Hi, red apples way at the top. I can't get you because short people problems. Well, we're all done picking apples.
Right.
Ooh, my hair. I'm sweaty. And we're going to have a good time, huh, Mom?
Yes, we
Eating
are.
some apples. Yum.
Yummy, yummy, yummy to the tummy.